There is one thing everyone, not only in India but in the whole world, is concerned and talking about apart from the pandemic, and that is Sino India relations. Recently, after the Galwan Valley clash that took place on June 15th, 2020, between the Indian Army and Chinese PLA, this issue got heated up. Everyone has their own speculations about the outcome of the border tensions between the two countries and the role of Pakistan in making it worse. Some scholars fear this is an emergence of World War II, and some feel that China will take a step back, and there are other views as well. But we all know for a fact that this issue is not new. It has a complete history attached to it. Today, we have with us Wing Commander Sushil Kumar, a veteran who has interest and expertise in matter of current strategic affairs, having been associated with operational logistics for Indian Air Force, to share his insights on Sino-India relations. We welcome you, sir, today on our channel.
Good evening, Preeti. Nice to be with you on your channel. Thanks for inviting me.
You're welcome, sir. So, sir, tell us, what is this Ladakh issue? Why Ladakh is so significant location?
See, Ladakh means it's a land of mountain passes. And you will, when you look into the history, the passes have played a great role in army and empires in their expansionist movement or while fighting a war. And the problem in Ladakh is nothing new. ये बहुत दिनों से है, काफी दिनों से है, ब्रिटिशर्स से पहले से है. जब सिल्क रूट था और when we were doing the business through the ancient Silk Route, ये उस समय से है. Ladakh was an independent state. It was doing its trade and business through Tibet. It was buying wool from there and giving us into the Kashmir and manufacturing. ये उस समय से है कि लद्दाख को इंडिया भी क्लेम करता है और चाइना भी क्लेम करता है. हमने लड़ाई लड़ी है और तब लद्दाख को हमारे साथ मिलाया है. It goes back to the Sikh war, where they annexed it and then handed over to Britishers in lieu of some treaty. And later on, the Raja of J&K, he bought it back from the Britishers, and that is how Ladakh came into our territory.
Okay. So, sir, when we talk about history, so we have a long history with China related to religion, trade, because their religion is also derived from our country. And trade and the silk, you talked about Silk Route. So tell us more about that.
Britishers were earlier having territories up to Afghanistan and beyond. But slowly, as they started consolidating in the comfort zones of the hinterland, the Hindu Kush and the Pamir area started getting neglected. And then they started moving their focus inward. And then they settled their various treaty issues for these far-flung areas, especially Ladakh, the Baltistan, Nepal, and Sikkim, and Arunachal, that side. They ignored it and they dealt it locally in a haphazard manner, which left this problem which we are facing today. The boundary was not demarcated, or if demarcated, is not recorded, and now everybody is challenging it, and this is the situation which we are facing.
Tell us more about British, the role of British in shaping the relation between these two countries, because initially we started like the trade relations were very good, and even now they are, but like how the British played a role in these two countries.
See, as I just now said, when they started focusing only on the mainland, these areas were neglected. They had a treaty with the J&K ruler, Jammu and Kashmir ruler, and Ladakh was given as a part to the Jammu and Kashmir. And then it became a part of the Great Himalayan Weld, they call it. The Great Himalayan Weld was the policy which was taken over, which was put into practice by the Britishers. What they did was that since 1950, the British negotiating future of traditional route by Indian ambassadors through Demchok and Tibet were being objected by the Chinese. This problem has been going on since the time we got independence. And then came the decision of the Britishers to formulate a treaty which was not very ironclad, nor it was accepted by the Chinese or for that matter, even Nepal has got certain issues in the treaty which has been demarcated by the Britishers for India.
Okay. So, how were the relations between India and China like in the 19th century, post independence?
Yes, post independence, we wanted, see, being a Hindu country and Mount Kailash being one of our most revered religious place, it happened to be in Chinese territory. So we were negotiating both a religious route and a trade route through the Chinese permission, through the oldest available route to this area through Demchok in Tibet. But the Chinese objected to it. And that is the reason till today, going to the Mansarovar pilgrimage has been a major issue for us, and alternative routes have been found out, and we have had to struggle to get a motorable road, or now ultimately it is through a helicopter, the final treads, and then you do a parikrama. So this route has not yet been cleared, and now with the latest Kalapani and Lipulek route, which is now we are opening up, but that too has been also objected to by the Nepalese. And further to this, when we started having problems in Ladakh, our government told us to take a forward position. We took a forward position without going in for full preparation. हमारी तैयारी नहीं थी, हमारे पास कपड़े नहीं थे. We didn't have the equipment to fight a war in those high altitudes. Our army was not trained to fight in. Except for bravery, we didn't have anything else. And that is when the Chinese war came. And in the 1962, we had a major showdown with them. Yeah, we had a major showdown. And yes, we had to suffer, I'll call you a defeat. But historically, and the valor of Indian Army has been recognized by everybody in that war. We have given them a good fight. And then came the Soviet downfall. Once the Soviet downfall also came, China became belligerent. There was nobody to control it. It was being pumped in. Initially, the Americans had pumped into China a lot of money and thought that once it will start becoming a manufacturing giant, it may come into the democratic fold of the whole world. That was the initial plan, though it didn't work out. Then the Russians fell down. And once the fall of USSR took place, Russia could not intervene anywhere to control the Chinese growth in the central region. And thus, now it is playing the big bully game.
So, sir, tell us, what is the geopolitical position of India and China as of now, at present?
See, geopolitical position, if you see, today China is the manufacturing hub of the world. The manufacturing activities which is happening in China, nobody can match as of now. And nobody can say, no country can say, किसी देश की ये हिमाकत नहीं है कि वो कह सकता है कि मैं चाइना को आइसोलेट करके अपनी दिनचर्या चला सकता हूं. They cannot run their day-to-day activities without having a cordial trade relationship or a barter kind of thing with Chinese. So this is, and their army is also huge. They have the world's one of the largest military they have got. They are investing a lot of their GDP into military weaponization and modernization. Whereas India is playing the catch-up game. We are developing. We are removing poverty from our country. That is our first priority. Military expansion has never been our first priority. Yes, we have a military to defend our country, our borders, but we have never had any expansionist attitude. Whereas China is now playing the expansionist game in the whole of Central Asia. And it is treating itself as a middle kingdom king. And if I'd like to highlight one more thing, the geopolitical situation with China thinks is it considers Tibet as the palm, and then it considers all these disputed northern borders of India Ladakh, Sikkim, Arunachal, Bhutan, all these as fingers. And they want to capture all this and make it into their Chinese territory. So that is the thought position of China even today. Whereas we are only defending our territorial integrity. We don't have any eyes on any other countries.
Yes,
We
sir.
are a democracy further, whereas it's a party rule over there. And in a democratic setup, we have opposition to the government policies, we have opposition by the people. So our geopolitical standing is very different. We are treated as equals by many of the big people, the big countries, because we follow a set of norms and rules. We follow the government, the world order. Whereas China does not follow any world order. It has its own policies and it goes by its own rules.
So, sir, as we talked about trade and geopolitical position, um, why, like, there is so much development with China? Like, in China, they have developed so much. Why India has lagged in that? Why we have not been able to, uh, go that route or like develop as much as China did since like we got independent?
This is a very difficult question. Initially, we were more developed than Chinese. Our GDP was much stronger than them, but they have gone into a very, very focused approach. They have gone on a very non democratic path to achieve the development standards it has achieved now. It got a lot of money from America to start its initial factories. Then it started manufacturing in volume. That is how the it captured the whole world trade. The majority of the world trade is now has been controlled by them. So trade was their first aim. Then they developed on their focused on their military. Then they focused on their infrastructure. Whereas in India, we have just now started focusing on our agriculture and infrastructure. Our trade and military has not yet been even touched. That is the reason. And then there the government used draconian law. They took people with more than two children in the family. They put them in bonded labor. They have used very strong arm tactics to get their things done. There are no labor laws over there. There cannot be a strike. There are no trade unions. So they get things done in much faster way, in a much stricter way than we as a democratic country. But now we are also catching up and give us 10, 15 years. This is my reading. In 10, 15 years, we should be able to match them at least in manufacturing. And militarily, we are even now, even though smaller country, we can match them for anything.
Let's hope that happens very soon. So, sir, presently,
Yeah.
what is China's situation in terms of trade in the whole world? Like,
See, I don't have the data about the whole world, but when you see the Indian concept, for Indian, our total import from China is just 4% of their total trade. And this is what I am remembering right now. So if you see, 4% has no meaning for them. If we stop the entire trade also, they will have no impact on their major impact on their business. But yes, if collectively the whole world starts finding alternates to China or an alternate supply chain is established in other countries, then it will be impacting China. Whereas our certain industries are almost 80% dependent on them, like our drug manufacturing, our electronics industry, our cell phone industry, our television industry. We cannot right now cut off our relationship with China on these issues. But yes, when we find an alternate situation where a country can offer us these things, yes, those are the times we can think about it. Like right now, we are going in for 5G technology in India. The trials are on. We can think of not inducting Huawei right now. We can go to any European or an American company, but yes, they'll come costlier. So that call is government's call. How much budget they have got, how much more money they can invest. So these are the two things which will decide whether we want to continue with China in our trade or not.
Yes, because right now, with all this happening and India opting out of business with China and banning the Chinese apps, like there is a huge impact on China, but is there any impact on India as well? What is the economic fallout of India, and like what will be the like later on? How do you see this?
The impact will be not economics to develop these apps in India. New industries will come up, new startups will come up. Then only you will be able to generate these kind of apps and businesses in our own country. Tomorrow, if we start manufacturing the drug APIs, the pharmaceutical ingredient, which we call it, once we start manufacturing the key starters for these manufacturing of these drugs, we will have our own industry. Initially, the cost will be more, but once we have the setup, once we develop a trade policy or a manufacturing policy like that, we will have all these lined up in our country.
Yes, and we have also like recently seen after these banning of Chinese apps, lot of Indian apps have come up, like similar ones, and people are using them, and they are
Very true.
aware
Very true.
now about all this. So I think what you said is like correct, and we might very soon we might have all these industries booming in India itself.
And before we go ahead on more on the trade side, since my expertise is on the logistics and military, I would like to highlight one more thing. The current deployment in the Ladakh sector is nothing but a war of logistics. Who has a better supply line, who has a better supply chain, who has a better line of communication will be able to face it and come out victorious of this. Since the winters are now coming, and you have seen
Yes.
our foreign ministers have met, our defense ministers have met, our military generals have met, but no result has come up. So it means China has come there with a long term plan. It has come there to stay. It has come there to raise our cost. It has come there to coerce us into accepting their decision. उनकी इच्छा है कि हम subjugate हो जाएं, हम झुक जाएं, हम उनकी सारी चीजों को मान लें क्योंकि हमारे खर्च बढ़ जाएंगे, हम नहीं इस डिप्लॉयमेंट को सस्टेन कर पाएंगे. जो उनकी गलत सोच है, ये उनकी सोच है, मैं बता रहा था, लेकिन हमने भी पूरी तैयारी कर ली है और हम इनके मिलिट्री स्ट्रेटजी को भी समझ रहे हैं. ये इस समय लद्दाख में एक वेस्टर्न फ्रंट खोल करके ये लोगों का ध्यान दो चीजों से बटा रहे हैं. They have their own famine, their own economic situation in the country. They have an issue in the South China Sea. They want to avoid people focus on there, and then they have opened up this. It's 100% carbon copy similarity between the 1962 issue. The whole world उस समय कोरिया वॉर की तरफ फोकस कर रहा था और उन्होंने चाइना में हमारे ऊपर अटैक कर दिया. इस बार भी सारे अब वो हम कंफ्यूज हैं. वो साउथ चाइना पे फोकस करवा के इंडिया में अटैक करना चाहते हैं या इंडिया में फोकस करके ताइवान पे करना चाहते हैं. ये पॉलिसी अभी क्लियर नहीं हुई है. बट दिस आइदर दीज टू इज द एम ऑफ चाइना एज ऑफ नाउ. एंड वन मोर एम ऑफ चाइना इज टू गिव प्रोटेक्शन to its national highway, its China-Pakistan economic corridor, by shifting the border slightly on the westward side. These are the 3-4 aims of Chinese movement in Ladakh. This is what my assessment is.
So, sir, what are the present areas of clash? Please tell us about.
The present area, if you see, it starts from Daulat Beg Oldie. If you see the map on the right-hand side of Daulat Beg Oldie, it are the Demchok plains, the Y junction. From there, the LOC comes down to Galwan. From Galwan, it is coming down to Pangong Tso. This is the northern side of the Pangong Tso. And as you come down on the southern side of the Pangong Tso, the Chusul sector comes in and the Kailash Ridge is there. So this is where the immediate center of activation and conflict is. But don't be surprised and don't be complacent. Chinese have moved in enough troops even in the central area, enough troops in the Arunachal area, and don't be surprised if they open other fronts also.
So, sir, now let's talk about Galwan. I wanted to ask this question. Was it a blunder or an act of bravery on our part? What do you think?
Galwan was a very misfortunate incident, I must say. India is a professional army. We don't fight with clubs. We don't fight with stones. We fight with weapons of war or weapons of army. The Chinese backtracked on an agreement which was done a few days back. The CEO of our unit, he went there with his team to confirm it, and then the Chinese ambushed them. So this is a clear case of treachery by them, but our brave soldiers took this Chinese army and fought till death. We lost 20 people. My respects and homage to them, but we took at least 60 of their lives also. The Chinese have had a real loss of life, but which they are not admitting. And any intelligence agency you check up says that they have had at least 30 to 35 deaths and many more serious injuries. So it was definitely an act of bravery by us and an act of treachery by the Chinese.
That was a sad incident for like both the countries. If they would have tried to, sort this, otherwise it would have been better. And
now with our movement on the southern side of the Pangong Lake, we are definitely dominating the heights. And even on Finger 4, we have now moved up above the Chinese. And now the Chinese are really scared because we have taken over the heights. The entire Moldo bowl, the Moldo की जो घाटी आप कहिए बॉल को कटोरा कहते हैं हिंदी में, लेकिन वो उसका शेप है. The Moldo ball is now under our direct observation. The tank battle which can take place in the Chusul axis is now under our control. We monitor the passes over there. There's another lake which people don't talk about much in the non-military area, that is the Spanger Lake. That is where the actual thrust will come if it comes towards Chusul. The northern bank is not pliable for the armor to move on, or for that matter, even infantry to move on in a massive scale. So these are the things. Whereas in Demchok and the Depsang Plains, that is where the actual flatlands are there in Ladakh. So these are the two sectors where we will have, if we have any conflict. Whereas rest all places, in my opinion, it will be a holding of their own territory and some minor skirmishes.
yes, so I would like to ask you that now we all can see that the preparations are going on both the sides. Like even China, every day we have a new video coming up of their preparations, and we also have an edge now. So do you see a full-scale war coming in? And if yes, then what will be the impact of this war on local population of India and the economy and also the defense forces?
Actually, nobody can predict a war. And second line is, no soldier wants a war. But if it is thrust upon us, we are ready and we are prepared to face a war. Only when it comes, we will know the scale of it. But I can give you a slight picture that our supply lines are very strong. The Chinese supply lines are very stretched. So to sustain a stretched supply line is very difficult in a war. So China will also not like a war. And even, I'm quoting their president today. Xi Jinping in UN has said that China does not want a war. But yes, we don't trust the Chinese. But on paper platform, they are saying this, that they don't want a war. So if China themselves are telling they don't want a war, we should not say that they want a war. But yes, we should be ready for it. Because I'm following their, the war principles which Chinese follow. Which says, the art of war teaches us to rely not on the likelihood of enemy not attacking, but on our own readiness to receive him. And we are ready to receive him. And if there is a war, yes, it will have an impact on our economy. It will have an impact on our infrastructure. Because if there is a war, missiles will definitely be used. We will have long-range damages. We will also cause damages to them. War is definitely a loss of life and economy to both the countries. It will be impacting us equally bad, and as it will impact the Chinese.
Yes, sir. Because as of now, as we all know, because of this pandemic, every country is suffering and economies are struggling. So it's better if we do not have it, and like right now we are already have like something to work on. So this will be additional burden for both the countries or like even the world.
Yes. Right now, we are keeping all our communication lines open. We are meeting on all fronts, diplomatic, the military, the back channel. So let's hope that something good comes out of it.
Yes, sir. So my last question would be like, what are our forces' proactive maneuvers on the south bank of Pangong So and like other nearby?
Yes. Yes, see, that's the South Bank. That's what I sometimes back in the interview just now I just said that we have occupied the heights.
Yes, yes.
We have taken at least 6 heights, the helmet top, black top, Rekinla, Rezangla, all these which were in our side of the LSE, but we were not manning them due to whatever reasons. But now when we realized if we don't move in our soldiers over there, the Chinese will move in. And then it will become difficult to dislodge them. So we moved in preemptively, and now with our soldiers sitting on this ridge line, we are looking down on to the Chinese Moldo garrison and the Moldo area, and the Spanger Lake is the Spanger Gap is there between one of the ridges and the lake, through which we can have an armored movement of Chinese. So we have blocked it and we are monitoring it.
Okay.
So our position is very strong, and it has given us a bargaining chip. With these heights, in the yesterday's meeting, the Chinese have started asking us to vacate them. So now we are on a negotiating table, and hopefully something good should come.
And maybe this act derived this situation when the Chinese president came and said that we do not want war. So maybe this initiated that thing, and we brought us to negotiating table.
Yes, they must have had a rethink of their policy.
Yes.
And if you see in the foreign policy, what we say that foreign policy is a factor which is governed by the military capability. One of the architects of offensive realism theory in international politics, he has said that in international politics, a state power is ultimately a function of its military forces and how they compare with the military of the rival. So it is that what will give us the power of our negotiators to deal with them and come out with a solution which is win-win to both of the countries, because both are big countries, both have to justify to their own media, own people, own government, and nobody can take a defeat without fighting a war. So it has to be a negotiation which will give win-win and easy solution to both the countries and both the governments.
Yes, sir. So, thank you so much for taking out time for us and coming here today on our channel and sharing your insights on this like hot topic called like Sino-India relations. So, thank you so much, sir.
Thank you very much. My privilege. Have a nice day. Bye-bye.
You too.
To have more such discussion and analysis, subscribe to our channel and hit the bell icon. And if you like the video, please do not forget to hit the like button so that we get inspired to give more such discussions in the coming future.